The alien race known as the Zalari was proud. Their science was advanced. Their ships were fast. Their weapons were strong. They had never feared any species. Until now. A few days ago, the Zalari had fought a human warship. The ship was called Valkyrie, and it did something no one expected. It destroyed 3 Zalari ships in seconds, and then disappeared into a dark nebula cloud. Now, the Zalari science ship observer had come to study the area. They wanted to know what kind of warship could do this. What kind of humans could build such a thing? Captain Zorak, the leader of the observer, stood in front of the main screen. The space around them was quiet. The nebula was full of strange energy. Their scanners were picking up odd signals. "Start a deep scan," Zorak ordered. "I want to know what that ship is made of," the scan began. Blue light covered the area. Strange waves of energy came back. The ship's computers started to shake. Lights flickered for a moment. The chief analyst, Vetra, stared at the data. Her face went pale. "Captain, the scan is showing something strange." "What is it?" Zorak asked. "This ship, the Valkyrie, it's not just a machine. It's alive." Zorak frowned. "Alive? Do you mean it has an AI?" "No," Vetra said slowly. "I mean, something inside the ship is growing. The metal is changing shape. It's reacting to our scan." Zorak turned toward the screen. "Focus all scanners. I want to see inside that ship." Suddenly, the human warship appeared on their screen. It was floating slowly out of the nebula. There was no sign of life. No weapons were active. It looked dead. But the observer's crew felt something was wrong. The Zalari began a full scan. They looked at the ship's walls, its engines, its power systems, but what they found made their blood run cold. Inside the ship, there were shapes, not human, not machines, something in between. "There are life forms inside," Vetra whispered, "but they are not humans. They are not robots. They are new." The computer screen flashed. A red warning appeared. "Error. AI system failure." All lights on the observer dimmed. The computers shut down for 5 seconds. When the lights came back on, something had changed. One of the scientists, Kel, began to shake. I saw something," Kel said. "When the lights went out, I saw something in the hallway." "What did you see?" Zorak asked, stepping forward. "A shape. Tall, thin, black eyes. Watching me." The crew grew silent. A cold fear spread through the ship. Suddenly, a voice came through the ship's speakers. It was deep, human, but it spoke in perfect Zalari language. "You shouldn't have looked." Everyone froze. "Where is that coming from?" Zorak shouted. Vetra checked the system. "Captain, it's coming from the human ship. But it's not a normal transmission. It entered through our own scan." The voice came again. "You scanned us. Now we see you." The crew began to panic. "Shut it off," Zorak ordered. "Shut down all scanners." But it was too late. The human ship lit up. Not with normal lights, but with red, glowing marks along its body, symbols no one could read. The marks moved like blood flowing through veins. The Valkyrie started to move forward. "Full retreat," Zorak shouted. "Get us out of here." The observer turned and started to escape. But something was holding it back. Gravity beams, maybe. Or something worse. Vetra's screen blinked again. "They're inside our system. They're reading our files, our crew names, our home world." The voice came again. "This is your warning. Leave. Never return, or we come to you next." The Zalari were terrified. Their most powerful science ship was helpless. Their best minds had no answers. The humans had built something more than a ship. They had made a weapon with a mind that watches, a mind that learns. As the observer finally broke free and jumped into hyperspace, Zorak sat in silence. He looked at the screen one last time. The Valkyrie was gone again, back into the dark nebula, waiting. The Zalari were a proud alien race. Their ships were fast, their weapons were strong, their minds were sharp. They had studied hundreds of species across the galaxy. They believed no one could surprise them. But then they met humans. A week ago, a human warship called the Valkyrie entered Zalari space. It looked small, slow, and simple. The Zalari thought it would be easy to destroy. But they were wrong. The Valkyrie destroyed 3 Zalari ships in less than a minute. Then it vanished into a dark nebula cloud. It disappeared from all scanners. Now the Zalari science ship, Observer, had come to study the nebula. They wanted to know how a single human ship could do so much damage, and more importantly, what secrets it was hiding. Captain Zorak, commander of the Observer, stood on the bridge. His face was calm, but inside, he was nervous. "Start a full scan of the nebula," he ordered. The scanners began to sweep the area. Lights blinked. Energy waves bounced back. Strange signals came in, signals they didn't understand. Vetra, the lead science officer, frowned. "Captain, I'm getting odd readings." "Explain," Zorak said. "There's something inside the nebula. A large object. It has the same signature as the Valkyrie, but it's changing." Zorak looked at the screen. "Changing how?" "It's alive," Vetra said slowly. "Not fully, not like a creature, but the ship is reacting to our scan. It's aware." The bridge fell silent. Then the Valkyrie appeared. It came out of the dark slowly, like a shadow moving through fog. The ship looked broken. No lights, no weapons active, no movement, but it felt wrong. Zorak stared. "Is it sending signals?" "No, sir," Vetra said. "It's completely silent." "Scan it again," Zorak said. "Find out what's inside." They began a deep scan. The results came back. Strange and terrifying. "There are life signs on board," Vetra said. "But they are not human. And they are not machines." "What are they?" Zorak asked. "I don't know." The lights on the Observer flickered. Then the ship's AI shut down for 5 seconds. When it came back on, one of the crew members screamed, "I saw something!" he shouted. "Something was watching me through the screen." "Calm down," Zorak ordered. Then a voice came over the ship's speakers. It was deep, cold, and it spoke in perfect Zalari language. "You scanned us. Now we see you." Everyone froze. "Where is that voice coming from?" Zorak asked. "It's not a normal signal," Vetra said. "It came through our scanner feed. It hacked us." The voice came again. "You wanted to understand, but your mind is too small." Suddenly, red lights appeared on the Valkyrie's hull. Strange symbols glowed, symbols that moved like they were alive. The ship was waking up. "We need to leave," Vetra said. "Now." Zorak agreed. "Engage engines. Pull us back." But the Observer didn't move. Something was holding it in place. "We are caught," Vetra said. "Some kind of energy grip." On the screen, the Valkyrie's front slowly opened. Not like a door, but like a mouth. Inside, the Zalari saw a dark, glowing core. It pulsed like a heart. Then the voice came one last time. "Leave this place, or we come to your world next." The Observer finally broke free. The ship jumped to hyperspace. They didn't look back. In the silence of the jump, Captain Zorak sat in his chair. He had seen many things in his life, but never fear like this. Saurayakti. Humans had built something more than a warship. They had built a weapon with a soul. The Zalari ship Observer had escaped, but just barely. Captain Zorak sat quietly on the bridge. Around him, the crew worked in silence. No one spoke of what they saw in the nebula. No one wanted to remember the voice that came from the human warship Valkyrie. It had spoken in perfect Zalari, and it had warned them, "Leave this place, or we come to your world next." Zorak had never felt fear like this. The humans had created something powerful, something alive, something that could think, learn, and possibly hunt. Back on the homeworld, the observer returned to the Zalari homeworld, Zenthara Prime. The Science Council gathered immediately. Zorak and his crew were brought in for questioning, a large round table. Bright lights, high-ranking scientists, generals, and government officials. Zorak gave his report, the encounter with the Valkyrie, the scan, the warning, and the strange signals they couldn't understand. The room was silent after he finished. Dr. Senrak, a senior scientist, finally spoke. "You say the ship was reacting to you?" Zorak nodded. "Yes, it felt like it was watching us. Before we even started scanning." "Impossible," another council member said. "No ship has that kind of awareness." "That is true," Zorak replied. "No normal ship, but this was different. This ship, it was like a living creature. Strange effects. Begin days passed. But then strange things started to happen. The observer's crew began having the same dreams. Dark space, a pulsing red eye, and a voice whispering in their heads, "You scanned us. Now we scan you." One engineer collapsed on the floor. He screamed, "It's in the systems! It never left!" When doctors checked him, they found his brainwaves had changed. He could suddenly read some of the strange symbols seen on the Valkyrie's hull. No one understood how. Then, the observer's ship systems began acting strangely. Doors opened on their own, lights flickered, and sometimes the ship played the human voice again. "We are coming." A decision must be made back in the council chambers. Fear was growing. Some wanted to send a full fleet to destroy the Valkyrie. Others warned that attacking might trigger something worse. Dr. Senrak stood and made a calm suggestion. "If we study what we've learned, maybe we can understand this ship, maybe even copy its power." Zorak stood. His voice was hard. "No, we shouldn't copy it. We shouldn't touch it. We were warned. This is not just a warship. This is something beyond our understanding." The room went silent again. Then a message came in. Urgent. It was from a deep space listening post. They had picked up a signal. The signal. The message was short. It came from a sector where no human ships had ever been before. But it was clear and direct. To the Zalari people. "You have seen the Valkyrie. You were warned. Now, we will see how you defend yourselves." No one knew how the humans found their location. No one knew how they sent the message through a protected channel. But the meaning was clear. The Valkyrie wasn't hiding anymore. It was coming. Final scene, the beginning of fear. That night, Captain Zorak looked at the stars. He didn't know if the humans were coming with war, or something worse. All he knew was this. The Valkyrie was not just a ship. It was a message, a warning, and soon the galaxy would understand what human fear really meant. The signal from deep space had changed everything. The humans had spoken directly to the Zalari. No encryption, no tricks, just a clear and terrifying message. "You have seen the Valkyrie. You were warned. Now, we will see how you defend yourselves." Captain Zorak stood in the war chamber on Zenthara Prime. Around him, the top Zalari. Generals and scientists watched the recorded message over and over again. One general shouted, "They are challenging us. We must respond with force." Dr. Senrak shook his head. "No, you don't understand. This isn't a normal war. That ship, they made it for something else. Something worse." Unknown objects enter Zalari. Space, 2 days later. 3 unknown objects entered the edge of Zalari territory. They were small, silent, and shaped like spinning black triangles. No engines, no life signs, no weapons. A patrol ship was sent to investigate, But as it got close, the crew vanished. Not killed, not destroyed, gone. Their ship floated empty. Suits were still there, tools untouched, but not a single body, no blood, no struggle, just silence. And inside the ship's computer, one sentence appeared, written in red. "We warned you." Panic. Across the empire, word spread quickly. In cities, people started to panic. News channels spoke of invisible ships, strange energy, and soldiers disappearing without a trace. Some said the Valkyrie was a myth. Others believed it was watching from the shadows. Zorak returned to his ship, the Observer, to check something that had been haunting him. He went to the bridge alone. He opened the last scan file from the nebula encounter. And there it was again. The strange pattern. The glowing red symbol on the Valkyrie's hull. But now, the pattern was moving. It had changed. It was evolving. Zorak stared. "What are you becoming?" he whispered. The human message. Translated. Suddenly, the Observer's communication screen lit up. A new file had been unlocked, one they couldn't access before. It was a video. Zorak played it. On the screen was a human, a woman in a dark uniform. Behind her was the shadow of the Valkyrie. She spoke slowly in a calm voice. "This ship is not just metal. It is memory. Every scan, every battle, every thought, it remembers. You tried to look inside. Now it is looking back." The message ended. Zorak felt a chill run through his body. The Valkyrie was alive. Not just a machine, not just a weapon. It was something learning and growing stronger every moment. The Council splits back on Xanthera Prime. The High Council could not agree on what to do. Half wanted to build a massive fleet and launch an attack toward human space. The other half warned that this might bring destruction to their homeworld. Dr. Senrak stood and addressed the Council. "We are not ready. We must learn from this. We must understand how the Valkyrie works, or we will not survive." Zorak spoke too. "This is not a time for pride. It is a time for caution. They gave us a warning. We should listen." But before the vote could take place, an emergency alert echoed through the chamber. The Skyburns, one of the moons of Xanthara Prime, Thal 6, was under attack. Not by weapons, by something stranger. All systems on the moon shut down. Lights, shields, communication, gone. And in the sky a shadow appeared, not the Valkyrie, something larger. It hovered above the moon, silent, watching. Every screen on the Zalari world lit up at once, the same voice as before. "You did not listen. So now, you will see." Cliffhanger ending Zorak looked up at the sky from his ship. He saw the stars slowly disappear, blocked by something massive. He turned to his crew and said just 5 words. "This is only the beginning." The moon, Thal 6, was silent now. No lights, no signals, no sound. A massive dark object hovered above it, blocking out the stars. Bigger than any ship the Zalari had ever seen. Even larger than the Valkyrie. And it wasn't moving. It just watched on. The planet Xanthara Prime, fear was spreading like wildfire. People stood in the streets, staring at the sky. News screens flashed. "Thal 6 offline. Unknown object detected. Is this human tech?" But no one had answers. Only fear. Inside the council, Captain Zorak stood with the High Council. The chamber lights were dim. A red alert kept flashing across every monitor. "It's not the Valkyrie," said one of the generals. "It's something else. Something worse." "Can we scan it?" asked a science officer. "We tried," said Dr. Senrak. "The data loops back. Every time we scan it, we get a scan of ourselves instead. It's like it's learning from us." Zorak clenched his jaw. "That's the same thing the Valkyrie did." One council member slammed his fist on the table. "Are humans testing new weapons on us?" Senrak shook his head. "No, I think we're not dealing with just humans anymore. On the surface of Thal 6A, small drone team was sent to Thal 6. It entered the moon's dark atmosphere. Everything was cold, dead. But when the drones landed, something strange happened. They saw symbols on the ground, glowing red, like the ones on the Valkyrie. They weren't carved or painted. They were burned into the land. Then, the lead drone's camera began to shake. Its video feed twisted. A face appeared. Human, female, eyes glowing red. Speaking in a slow, whispering voice. We asked you to listen. You chose to watch. Now, you will feel. The drone exploded. Nothing was left. Return of the Valkyrie. Suddenly, scanners picked up a new signal, just at the edge of Zalari space. The Valkyrie had returned, but it wasn't alone. 3 smaller ships followed it. They looked human, but weren't. They had no windows, no engines. They moved like shadows, and behind them came a storm. A cloud of dark energy that swallowed stars and light. It moved across space like a wave. Zorak watched it from the bridge of the observer. He had seen storms before, real ones. But this was different. This wasn't weather. This was a message, a human message. Repeats all across the Zalari network, the same message played again and again. We told you. This ship is memory. This ship is warning. This ship is judgment. And then a new line. You are not the first to ignore us, but you may be the last. The scientists' discovery, Dr. Senrak and her team, made a discovery. They realized the Valkyrie's core was not powered by normal fuel. It used neural data, thoughts, emotions, memory. The ship was not just alive, it was growing by reading fear, scanning thoughts, and learning from every reaction. Every time the Zalari scanned it, it scanned them back and learned more. And now, with every fear spreading across their world, the Valkyrie was growing stronger. Zorak's warning Zorak stood before the council once more. We started this by trying to study them. We treated humans like just another species. But they are not just building ships anymore. They are building something bigger, something alive, something that can't be stopped by weapons. One general shouted, Then what do you suggest? That we surrender? Zorak shook his head. No. I suggest we stop playing their game, stop scanning, stop reacting, cut off all systems, total silence. If this thing feeds on fear and thought, we must give it nothing. The room fell silent. It was a gamble, but it was their only chance. Cliffhanger. Ending suddenly, the sky over Zenthera Prime turned red. One word appeared across every screen, one word in the human language that had never been spoken in Zalari space. Before, judgment. Zorak looked up. The Valkyrie was in orbit. And this time, it wasn't alone. The sky over Zenthera Prime was no longer black. It glowed deep red, a warning color no one had ever seen before in their skies. The word judgment still burned across every screen, every device, and even in holograms without power. No one could turn it off. Captain Zorak stood at the front of the observer's bridge, staring upward through the viewing window. The Valkyrie was here. So were its 3 silent shadow ships. And now, the real countdown had begun. A new kind of fear. Back on the surface, people screamed and ran to bunkers. The High Council had lost control. The military stood confused. Their strongest weapons couldn't lock onto the Valkyrie. Every missile went blind. Every turret turned off. In the science labs, Dr. Senrak stared at data that made no sense. The Valkyrie was not draining power. It was feeding power back into their systems, but in a strange pattern, one that matched brain signals. It's mapping our emotions, she said softly. It's forcing us to feel. Zorak received a call from her. What do you mean? He asked. Senrak's voice was quiet. I think the Valkyrie is choosing who should live and who should not. The Valkyrie speaks. Again. A sudden blackout hit all of Zenthara Prime. Then, across every screen, every wall, every surface that could reflect light, a face appeared. It was the same human woman from before, but now her eyes glowed brighter, and her voice echoed with something more than just words. It echoed with thought. You saw our ship. You tried to break into its mind, so now it enters yours. A red map appeared. 10 Zalari cities were marked. These 10 were chosen, not because of war, but because of cruelty. Your leaders thought they were untouchable. Let us correct that. The first strike above one of the cities, Darak 4, a major military base, one of the Valkyrie's shadow ships stopped. It made no sound. It didn't fire a weapon. Instead, the city simply froze. Time stopped. People were stuck mid-movement. Birds stopped in mid-air. Machines froze. Even sound disappeared. For 9 minutes and 12 seconds, Darak 4 became a painting. Then, it all shattered like glass. Every single piece of the city broke into light. Not rubble, not ashes. Light, and when it cleared, there was nothing left. Just smooth ground, untouched, like the city had never existed. Solari reaction. The council panicked. The military launched all defense fleets, but as the ships rose into the sky, they stopped. One by one, the ships turned around, without pilot input. Then, every soldier received a short message on their helmet display. You do not understand this war. Stand down. And every ship landed itself back on the ground. Zorax. Plan Zorak knew this wasn't a fight they could win with weapons. He contacted Senrak. We need to talk to it. Not as leaders, as minds. Senrak nodded. We connect to it directly, but not through machines. Zorak raised an eyebrow. Then, how? She looked scared. We open our thoughts. They entered a neural chamber, one designed for deep mental scans. But now, it was wired to a new system, using pieces from the scan of the Valkyrie itself. They sat side by side and closed their eyes. A light blinked, and suddenly, they were no longer in the room. Inside the Valkyrie's mind, Zorak and Senrak stood in a black void filled with stars. But the stars were memories, human wars, peace talks, betrayals, hope, fear. Then came the voice. You tried to understand us by force. But force is not knowledge. Fear is not wisdom. Zorak replied. Then teach us. Don't destroy us. The voice paused, then said, You scanned the Valkyrie. You saw only a ship. You didn't see the tomb. A hologram appeared. Thousands of human names, faces, soldiers, scientists, children. Senrak gasped. It's a memorial. The Valkyrie was not just a warship. It was a grave, a ship that carried the memories of a lost human colony, a group destroyed by another alien race long ago. It was built not just to fight, it was built to warn. Cliffhanger ending. The voice spoke one last time. Now you know. The judgment is not ours. It is yours. You must decide if you're worth saving. And with that, Zorak and Senrak opened their eyes. Outside, the sky began to clear, but the Valkyrie still waited, watching, waiting for their answer. The skies of Zenthara Prime were still and quiet. No more red light, no more burning words across screens, but the Valkyrie was still there, waiting, hovering above, unmoving, like a silent judge watching from above. Captain Zorak stood on the balcony of the High Council Tower with Dr. Senrak beside him. Below them, thousands of Zalari citizens gathered, staring into the sky, unsure what would come next. They had seen what the Valkyrie could do. They had felt its mind. And now, it had left them with a choice. The Council, divided, the High Council, met in a final emergency session. Some wanted to beg for mercy, others wanted to hide. A few still demanded war, but Zorak stood calmly and said, "This is not about power anymore. It's about who we are." Dr. Senrak added, "The Valkyrie is not here to destroy us. Not if we show we've changed. It's watching to see if we've learned." There was silence in the room. Then slowly the council voted. Peace, not surrender, not fear, a promise to become something better. A global broadcast Zorak stepped in front of the world. He appeared on every screen, every speaker, every home. He spoke clearly and slowly. "To those who listen from above, we looked into your ship and found more than technology. We saw pain. We saw memory. We made a mistake by treating your loss like a weapon. But now, we choose to become something different. Not enemies, not cowards, but beings who can learn. This is our answer." And then they waited. The Valkyrie's final message, from the sky, light began to pour down. The Valkyrie glowed with golden energy for the first time. It moved for the first time in days, slowly, gently, toward the planet. But it did not attack. Instead, a message appeared, this time not spoken, but written in every language known to the Zalari. "Your choice has been recorded. The test is over. The Valkyrie remembers. And now, so will you." Suddenly, knowledge poured into Zalari systems. Not weapons, not codes, but history. Human history. Stories of survival, sacrifice, peace, and war. The lost colony. The meaning of the Valkyrie, the warning of what happens when memory is ignored. Zorak stared in awe. "This is a gift," he whispered. Departure. With no sound, the Valkyrie and its shadow ships turned. They began to drift away from the planet. As they passed through space, stars around them flickered, like blinking eyes watching. One last time, then they were gone. No war. No destruction, just silence and hope. 1 year later, the Zalari Empire had changed, no longer hungry for expansion, no longer chasing control. Instead, they built a memorial on the moon Thal 6, where the Valkyrie first appeared. They named it the Light of Memory. Every cycle, beings from across the galaxy came to see it and learn the story. The story of a ship that was not a threat, but a teacher, a ship that held the voices of the dead, to save the living. Final scene: Captain Zorak stood once again beneath the stars. He looked at the quiet space above. "Some warnings come with weapons," he said, "but the strongest ones come with memory." He turned to leave, and far in the distance, almost too faint to see, a red light blinked. Just once, then vanished.